Hello everyone, let's learn about the request module. The request module enables us to download dataset from the internet by sending HTTP requests to the remote machine. The default module for processing HTTP in Python is something which is called as URL-lib. Everybody hates that module, so everybody uses the request module by default. We need to install request module by running the pip install request command. Then you'll be able to import the request module. The request module is referred to as HTTP for humans. That's because it's a really simple module for any beginner to go through in order to understand the functionality of HTTP protocol. I have a set of slides which talk about various aspects of the request module. Instead of going through these slides, I'm going to go through an example using Jupyter Notebook. I've already set up my notebook template file over here. Go ahead and pause the lecture video and download the template notebook file for today's lecture in order to follow along. The first thing which I want to do is I want to import the request module. Then I want to show you how you can send a HTTP GET request to fetch this particular remote URL. Let's first take a look at what is there inside the URL. I have a text file which contains the string hello CS220 students. Welcome to my website. Hope you're staying safe and healthy. Let me show you how you can use the request module to send a GET request. I'm going to copy paste the URL into a variable and I'm going to call it URL. So I can simply say request.get and I can pass URL as the argument. The GET function inside the request module enables us to send a HTTP GET request. So I'm going to capture the return value into a variable called R. I would have used the variable response since I'm going through a lecture demo here. I'm going to shorten that and use the variable name R instead. Always use meaningful variable names when you're writing your program. So let me go ahead and display R, and I want you to see what we get when we send a HTTP request, GET request. Notice that R is a kind of a response object. The way that you can retrieve the text information from inside R is by saying r.text. So that will retrieve the string that you saw as part of the URL that we just accessed. Type of r.text is always going to be of string type. Let me also make sure that I'm getting a 200 OK response when I am sending my HTTP GET request. The way that I can do that is I can assert that r.status underscore code is exactly 200. Excuse me. I can do that by saying assert r.status underscore code equal to 200. Right now, if I run this code, that will not make any difference at all because my HTTP GET request is going through fine. So let me give you an example where the HTTP request will fail. Let me change the URL by adding a few T's at the end of my URL. Let me go ahead and remove the assert statement, and I want you to look at the output that we get over here. It looks like a lot of gibberish, but we are actually getting a HTML file format. We'll talk all about HTML file format as part of Friday's lecture. This assertion is so commonly used for every HTTP request that is sent using the request module that the creators of request module decided to make a shortcut for it. So let me first go ahead and uncomment the assert statement, and I want you to look at the error message over here. So right now when I do that, I get an assertion error because I have a typo in my URL. Let me show you the shortcut inside the request module. So I can say r.raise for status, and this is a function call, so we need to use the parenthesis, and this is going to do the assertion for you. That's because this is a shortcut for asserting that status code is 200. Okay. Notice that now we are getting HTTP error. That's because inside the raise for status function, the creators of request module are explicitly raising the HTTP error. Alright, that's it for the first simple example. For the next example, I want to go through fetching a remote JSON file. Let me first show you what is the content of the JSON file. We have a dictionary containing 3 key value pairs. Each key represents a player and the corresponding value represents the player's score. So I'm going to copy paste the URL into a variable called URL, and I'm going to send a get request and capture that into a variable called R. So let me go ahead and display r.txt. Notice that we are getting the JSON file's content in a string format over here, which is not really nicely formatted, right? So let's go ahead and import the JSON module, and let's see how we can format that particular string that we are getting out of the text file. Here are a couple of JSON module functions. We have used json.load before in order to load JSON content from a JSON file format. So the argument for the load function call is going to be the file object, which is going to be the iterator to the file that you get when you open the file. Another function inside JSON module is called as load s. The s in load s stands for string. For this particular function, we can pass a string as an argument instead of passing a file object as an argument. Good thing is that request module always returns a string for us. So we can capture that into a variable. I'm going to call that variable as URL text. And I'm simply going to use the json.loads function in order to parse this particular URL text that we are reading out of the get request. So notice that now we are getting a nicely formatted dictionary over here. So I could capture that into a variable called D, and we could use the dictionary for further processing. Just like the creators of request module made a shortcut for raise for status, they also have a shortcut for the JSON loads function, because that is also used extensively. So let me go ahead and show you the shortcut over here. You can use r.json directly instead of using json.loads of URL. So let me go ahead and capture the return value into a variable called D. Once again, I'm using the variable D just because I'm going through a live demo here. Please make sure to use meaningful variable names and not variable names like D. Notice that we are getting the exact same output over here. Alright, the next demo is going to be much more interesting. I'm not sure if you're familiar with reddit.com website. Let me go through what you'll see when you go through reddit.com/r/uwmadison. Reddit is this website which enables you to post things, and you might be able to get useful answers about specific questions. And reddit.com site has a lot of subreddits. Each subreddit represents a specific topic. The UW-Madison subreddit is the Reddit page for UW-Madison, and a lot of students post a lot of interesting things on the UW-Madison Reddit subpage. The good thing about Reddit is that every subpage can be accessed as a JSON file just by saying the URL for the subpage and adding a .json at the end of it. If you think you've seen complicated JSON, here is a real world JSON file for you. This is the level of complication that you're going to see in terms of real world data sets. Since we are at a later part of 220 semester, today's demo is going to be about poking around this JSON file, which we are not at all familiar with. So I'm going to give you guidance on how you can find out useful information from some data set which has a JSON format. It is typical that most of the data sets in the internet don't give you explanation about the specific format of their files. So you need to poke around and figure out what is important for you. So let's go ahead and first start writing the code to fetch the Reddit URL over here by sending a HTTP GET request. Just so that you are aware, if you send too many HTTP GET requests to the Reddit URL, Reddit will ban you. If that happens, you can use the snapshot of the UW Madison JSON file, which I have uploaded onto my course website instead. So I'm going to try and see if the Reddit URL is still working for me. Let's go ahead and try that. I am going to send a GET request in order to fetch the content of this particular JSON file, and I'm going to raise for status as the first thing. And let me go ahead and display the type of r.txt over here. Since we are going to poke around a format that we are not really familiar with, let's just confirm that we are getting a string out of that. Alright, we are supposed to get a string. That's because we haven't really converted that into a JSON format. So let me try to convert that into a JSON format by saying r.json, and looks like Reddit banned me. Okay, I am actually going to use the snapshot version for this lecture demo. That's because I already went through a couple of iterations of fetching the Reddit URL when I was preparing for this demo. Alright, so that is so much better because I have a snapshot of the JSON file. I'm able to access the content by sending GET requests to my course website instead of reddit.com. Right, let's go ahead and explore this new JSON format. So let me go ahead and show you the type of r.json here to see what's going on here. We have a dictionary. I have a couple of suggestions below here. How do you explore an unknown JSON? If you run into a dictionary, try to use the dot keys function to explore the set of keys associated with that dictionary. If you run into a list, iterate over the list and print each item. So since the JSON itself is a dictionary, let me show the JSON file one more time to you. You can identify that it's a dictionary by looking at the curly braces here. Since the JSON itself is a dictionary, I am going to first of all capture the JSON into a variable called d, and I'm going to simply print d.keys, and let's see what sorry, I'm missing this. What interesting keys we have here. Okay, we have something called as kind, and then we have something called as data. So let me try to print type of d of kind in order to see what type we are dealing with there. We are receiving a type string. That's because d of kind is not really useful information. I can confirm that by trying to print d of kind. That just has the string listing. So let's explore the other key, which is d of data. Let me first print the type of d of data, and then we can worry about what exactly is contained inside d of data. D of data is a dictionary. So once again, we can explore that particular dictionary by using the keys function. So let me go ahead and capture, actually let me just go ahead and display the keys of data, D of data dictionary directly. Oh, once again I'm missing the S, sorry about that. Okay, so you have a few keys over here. You're welcome to explore each of them. I'm going to tell you that children is the most interesting key over here, because every Reddit page has a set of children which is going to talk about subreddits. So let's explore the type of children over here. So I'm going to say print type of D of data of, I'm going to get rid of the keys over here and I'm going to say of children. Hopefully I spelled that correctly. Right. So we are getting a list values over here. So if you try to access the keys accidentally for D of data of children, that's going to throw an error. That's because you cannot use the method called key for a list. Since we ran into a list here, I'm going to write a for loop to iterate over every item in the list. So I'm going to say for item and D of data of children. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and print item. Alright, we're getting a lot of data over here, which is a good thing. Notice that we are getting a dictionary for every item, and that dictionary has two keys, kind and data. Kind is not super helpful, so I'm going to look into what is there inside data. So you can confirm that you're getting a dictionary by printing the type of item over here. Let me move the print item after I print the type of item. Right, notice that that is giving you an output of dictionary. How can we explore a dictionary? You need to explore the keys inside a dictionary. So I'm going to say item.keys. Notice that once again we are getting kind and data as the keys. So I'm going to assume that data is the useful key. So I'm going to go ahead and fetch item of data, and let's look at what type we are getting here. This is confusing, so I'm going to go ahead and comment the previous print statement. We are getting a dictionary again, so you can confirm that by trying to find type of item of data. So let's look at the item of data dictionaries keys over here. Alright, I finally have the interesting information that I am looking for. So you are going to have a lot of details associated with each of the item of data entry. So you can find things like score. Here is a score, and you can also find things like title, which corresponds to the title of this particular post. So each entry in item of data refers to individual posts made by people. So let's look at item score here and also item title. So sorry, item of data of score and item of data of title. So I'm going to go ahead and comment all the print statements here, and I'm going to just display item of data of title, and I want to look at the corresponding score. So I'm going to say item of data of score over here. Alright, I expect that some of these will be really sad because of all the pandemic situation going on right now. Let's just read through a few of them. Here we go again. I wonder what students are talking about when it comes to that particular topic. I see that a few of you are talking about the neck track. That's a good thing. I love running outside. track is also a good option if it is cold outside. And there is another post here which says, I've been procrastinating this morning or afternoon by making this graphic of our capital. I hope the graphic looks nice. Need advice? People always need advice. It would be interesting for you to go through what uh, each of these posts are talking about. All right, I'll wrap up this video here. In the next video, I'll go through one more demo which downloads multiple JSON files from my course website.